Crime has always left a trail, sometimes visible and sometimes buried deep within the fabric of science. For decades, investigators relied on instinct, witnesses, and circumstantial evidence. But today, forensic science has made it almost impossible to hide the trail. From tracing the DNA left on a crime scene, to the metadata from the computers, reconstructing family trees, or to even gather pollens from crime scene, every branch of science offers a unique lens to solve the unsolvable cases. Welcome back to Prison Stories. In this video, we'll uncover how different forensic science branches have cracked some of the world's most difficult and high-profile cases. Let's watch how science is playing a role in serving justice. First, we have digital forensics. Digital forensics involves identifying, preserving, analyzing, and presenting electronic data as evidence in investigations. It plays a critical role in solving crimes by tracing digital footprints like emails, files, and metadata. The famous cases solved with digital forensics are catching BTK and Craigslist killers. We already have a detailed video on catching BTK, so here we will talk about Craigslist killer. Bodies of young women were turning up in hotel rooms across Boston. Each victim had been gagged, tortured, robbed, and ultimately murdered. The crime sent shockwaves through the city. Initial investigations linked the murders to a single suspect, a white male wearing a dark jacket and a baseball cap. But this description was far from enough to catch a killer. Police even pulled cell tower records from areas near the crime scenes for 15 minutes before and after each attack. Still, that data gave no lead. The killer had covered his tracks, using multiple phones to stay untraceable. A critical pattern emerged. All the victims had advertised their services on Craigslist. This discovery revealed the killer's method. He was contacting his victims through the platform, using disposable email accounts to arrange meetings. One of those email accounts, used to contact victim Julissa, became the turning point. After obtaining a subpoena, investigators tracked the email's registration back to an IP address. Comcast, the internet service provider, then revealed the name and address of the account holder, Philip Markoff. Markoff's arrest stunned everyone who knew him. A medical student with a fiancée and a promising future, he had been regarded as one of the brightest in his class. How could someone so seemingly perfect harbor such a dark secret? But the evidence was irrefutable. Forensic analysis tied him to the crimes, and his carefully constructed facade began to crumble. The so-called Craigslist killer took his own life in a Boston jail while waiting for his trial. Another important branch of forensic science is palynology, the study of pollen, spores, and other microscopic plant particles. In forensic science, it helps investigators link suspects or objects to specific locations or events by analyzing plant materials. These tiny particles can stick to clothing, shoes, or other belongings, providing clues about where someone has been or what they've been in contact with. A famous case solved through palynology was Soham murders case. On August 4, 2002, the quiet village of Soham was shaken by the disappearance of two 10-year-old girls, Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman. For 13 days, investigators searched tirelessly, but when their bodies were discovered in an irrigation ditch, hope for clarity seemed slim. The remains were badly decomposed, charred, and partially skeletonized, leaving no clear footprints or immediate clues at the scene. Even the cause of death was uncertain, with asphyxiation being the most likely explanation. Evidence at first appeared scarce, but science soon revealed a hidden trail. Ian Huntley, the school caretaker, looked suspicious to investigators due to his behavior, but authorities have nothing to pin on him. They even searched his home, but it was thoroughly cleaned recently. When police searched through the school, they found discarded clothes of girls in the bin. As police searched through Huntley's car, they found microscopic clues: pollen and plant particles found on Huntley's vehicle. Forensic palynologists matched this pollen to vegetation near the remote ditch where the girls' bodies were found. This link provided critical evidence, placing Huntley at the scene and supporting other forensic findings, including fibers. It was a breakthrough linking girls to the Huntley. They later find his fingerprints on the bin with their clothes. Ian Huntley's efforts to conceal his heinous crime were undone through precision of palynology, and justice for Holly and Jessica was achieved. Next, we have an even more interesting branch of forensic science, forensic linguistics. It's a study of language in legal and investigative contexts. Experts analyze patterns in written or spoken communication, such as grammar, syntax, word choice, and phrasing, to uncover hidden details about an author's identity, intent, or background. While this might sound unconventional, it has proven to be a powerful tool in cracking complex cases where other forensic methods fall short. One of the most famous cases solved through forensic linguistics is that of the Unabomber, a domestic terrorist who eluded authorities for nearly 2 decades. The Unabomber, later identified as Ted Kaczynski, carried out a series of bombings between 1978 and 1995, killing 3 people and injuring 23 others. For years, he evaded law enforcement, leaving behind little physical evidence. But his eventual downfall came not through fingerprints or DNA, but through his words. In 1995, Kaczynski sent a manifesto titled Industrial Society and Its Future to major newspapers, demanding its publication. Linguistic experts analyzed the document's phrasing, syntax, and unique word choices. With months of mind-boggling research, and also from the help of his own brother David, authorities were able to catch Ted Kaczynski. The manifesto provided a key link between Kaczynski's anonymous threats and his true identity. Forensic linguistics turned the Unabomber's own words into evidence, leading to his arrest and ending nearly 2 decades of terror. Next, we have psychological profiling. Psychological profiling, often called criminal profiling, is the process of analyzing a crime to infer the traits, behaviors, and motives of an unknown offender. It combines elements of psychology, criminology, and behavioral science to create a psychological snapshot of a suspect. While profiling may seem like an art form, it's rooted in science. Profilers rely on established psychological principles, patterns in criminal behavior, and empirical data to predict how an offender might think or act. These predictions often guide investigations, narrowing down suspects and anticipating their future actions. Famous killer caught through psychological profiling was the Vampire of Sacramento. Richard Chase earned his chilling nickname due to his gruesome crimes in the late 1970s, where he murdered 6 people in Sacramento, California, and displayed deeply disturbing behaviors, including drinking his victims' blood. Psychological profiling played a critical role in identifying Chase. FBI profilers examined the crime scenes and noted his chaotic and impulsive methods. Unlike organized killers who plan meticulously, Chase's crimes were disorganized, reflecting a severe mental illness. Profilers deduced that the suspect was likely a young male suffering from severe psychiatric issues, possibly schizophrenia. They also predicted that he would live alone, be socially isolated, and exhibit strange behaviors, such as neglecting personal hygiene. This profile matched Chase perfectly. Authorities connected him to the crimes when a witness reported seeing him in the area, and further investigation revealed his erratic behavior and a history of hospitalization for delusions. Psychological profiling in this case highlighted how science can help identify traits of an offender, even when physical evidence is scarce. Next, we have genetic genealogy or familial DNA. Genealogy, specifically genetic genealogy, has revolutionized the way cold cases are solved. By combining DNA analysis with publicly available genealogy databases, investigators can trace familial connections to identify suspects or victims. This approach relies on comparing DNA from a crime scene to profiles in genetic databases. Even distant relatives can provide the necessary link to build family trees, leading investigators to the person responsible. Famous cases solved through genetic genealogy are of Golden State Killer. Joseph James DeAngelo, later identified as the Golden State Killer, terrorized California from the 1970s to the 1980s, committing at least 13 murders, 50 rapes, and over 100 burglaries. For decades, his identity remained a mystery despite investigators collecting DNA from several crime scenes. In 2018, genetic genealogy cracked the case. Investigators uploaded the killer's DNA profile, extracted from crime scene evidence, to a public genealogy database. By tracing the DNA to distant relatives, they constructed a family tree that ultimately led to D'Angelo. This was the first high-profile case to use genetic genealogy to identify a suspect. D'Angelo's arrest ended a 40-year reign of terror. Genetic genealogy solved decades-old cold cases, bringing long-awaited justice to victims and their families. Forensic science plays a crucial role in solving even the most complex and long-unsolved criminal cases. From digital forensics to palynology, genetic genealogy to psychological profiling, these methods are game-changers in bringing justice to victims and solving crimes. While nothing can truly compensate for their losses, justice provides a sense of closure for families. Thank you for watching Prison Stories. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more captivating crime stories.